Hello and welcome to another video on Her Princess Nook. Today I want to talk about Goodbye My Princess, which is one of my favorite shows ever. This is a masterpiece from start to finish, and I personally feel a drama of this caliber doesn't come every month, it doesn't come every year, it's once in a 5 years kind of thing. Like, since watching it, I've not been able to watch anything that affected me as deeply as Goodbye My Princess did. This will contain spoilers, so if you are planning to watch this, I recommend pausing and then coming back to this video once you've finished watching the show. I started watching C-dramas at the start of 2025, and Goodbye My Princess is a drama that I always saw popping up on people's recommended lists. I had no idea what I was signing myself up for. The story is about the 9th Princess Zhao Feng, a bubbly, free-spirited young girl who was unfortunately embroiled in political plots that ultimately ruined her life. This shot here is one of my favourite shots from the drama, and I personally think she truly shines when she's wearing red. And you'll see red is a massive motif in this show throughout for her wedding dress, what she wears at the beginning of the drama, and what she wears at the end. This is another beautiful shot I really love, and in this shot Gujian is there as well. I have a lot to say about Gujian, but first we're going to start with Changyin. This was the moment of betrayal, and this moment had me screaming. The thing is, I knew what was coming, I knew who was going to betray her, but the way he betrayed her just made it worse. He had the audacity to marry her and then kill her entire tribe. Like, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And he expected her to not even just forgive him, but to also love him. Like, are you serious? Okay, I also have more to say. He's such an interesting character, and I think at first he comes across as naive, young, kind, sweet. So when I first met Changyin, especially when they showed him at the beginning, and you kind of, the show was really interesting in that they showed the Crown Prince first, and so I thought the Crown Prince was going to be the main character, but the main character actually being Changyin was so unique and different. I really liked how there was that kind of bait and switch where you think, okay, he's the male lead, but no, Changyin's actually the male lead. And another thing is that even if he knew that he had to kill the Danchi people, which at the end of the day was all for nothing, how could he be as cruel as to purposefully romance Zhao Feng, have camaraderie with Heishi, banter with her grandfather, and then in a split second kill them all? I didn't even see him wrestle with those emotions, and I feel like you'll be able to see towards the end of the show that that's just the way Changyin was. He did not care. He did not hesitate. He spent so much time trying to get Zhao Feng to see things from his perspective, and that he had no choice, and that if he didn't do it, he'd be killed. But I honestly don't think Changyin ever truly saw things from Zhao Feng's perspective. And if he truly loved her, he would have let her go. He would not have gone through the process of marrying her, knowing he would betray her. And in spite of all of that, I never hated Changyin. And I know you're like, what? I thought you'd hate him. And for some reason, I never hated him. I hated what he did. And throughout the show, while Zhao Feng was at G-State, a lot of people said to her, you can't trust people from the Central Plains. People said this to her all the time. And I think this show demonstrated that statement over and over again. I don't even think Changyin trusted himself. So yeah, now I'm going to talk about Zhao Sese. Zhao Sese is Changyin's concubine. Okay, so a major part of the show was the whole memory loss thing, and normally I absolutely hate amnesia plots, memory loss, but this is one of the very rare circumstances where I think it really worked well for the show, because what I didn't know was that Changyin actually had a romance with Zhao Sese before all of this, before he met Zhao Feng, before he went to G-State and the tribes and whatever. So I don't like how Changyin treated his consort, and if he had any modicum of respect and love left for Sese, he never would have married her and have her trapped in the palace where she was mistreated over and over again. And you know what, I won't absolve Sese of all the guilt. Deep down, from the get-go, she knew Changyin had feelings for the 9th princess, but she chose to remain willfully naive. So even though I do feel sorry for her, I also think it's a prison of her own making. She could have said to Changyin, bro, I know you don't like me the way you used to. It's okay, alright? Even her parents, her father was not for the marriage. He was like, don't marry the prince. You're going to be a concubine. Like, being a concubine is not the same as being the lawful wife. Don't do that to yourself. But did she want to listen? No. I want to talk about the bromance that was in the show. I think a lot of the time when we talk about Goodbye My Princess, and I've seen articles, people just focus on Cheng Yin and Xiao Feng and everything like that, but no one talks about the bromance that was happening. So no matter how you feel about the crown prince slash the second prince and his lackey Lian, who I think he was his cousin, but I don't know, it wasn't very clear to me that they had something going on, that's for sure. Maybe I read too much Danmei, but they were serving tragic Danmei realness and I ate all their scenes up. So I love the Crown Princess Hanfu in the scene. I just wanted to bring that up. But yeah, I think the second prince is another compelling character. He blamed the emperor for killing the crown prince, saying that it was the emperor's fault that he ended up that way. But I truly think that was a cop-out. He's cunning, he's greedy, and he truly did not care who ended up hurt if it meant he will hold the mantle as the crown prince. And he was saying to his father, oh, it's all your fault, I'm this way. And it's like, must you be the crown prince? Like, is it really that deep? And something I also found funny was in the scene when he's having the coup and he's trying to overthrow the Covenant Emperor, he literally says, I've never lost in my entire life, and then proceeds to lose. I will say though, he did look majestic in this scene. Anyways, on the whole Danmei point, this is the moment where I feel the crown prince knew he had lost everything. That's Lian over there who was stabbed, and like his face, you can just see that he gives up, and then he just starts screaming. So yeah, definitely a tragic bromance. It was kind of sad how it all turned out, but it was a prison of his own making. He's the one that killed the original crown prince first anyways, so I'm not too shocked about that. Yeah, another thing that also confused me about the show was at the very beginning, they were attacked by Zhao Feng's like tribe people, but then I never understood why that happened. But then somebody did tell me that they had actually made themselves look like Zhao Feng's tribe people for some reason, to blame it on them. So yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, but he's a very crafty person, but I really did feel bad for him at that point. And I do feel like this set of episodes where he tried to overthrow the emperor was some of the best set of episodes in the entire 40 episodes. It was so tense, it was so exciting. I remember binging like all 5 of those episodes because they were so good. Okay, let's talk about Gujian, the worst character ever. I will say though that in this shot he looks like an anime character, down to the sword on his hip and the scarf on his neck. But where do I start with him? He was so annoying. He was so annoying. I can't stand characters that are always drunk. He was always drunk. And after betraying Zhao Feng, he had the nerve to spend day and night drinking like a fish and standing outside her bedroom window like a creep. Isn't he supposed to be getting revenge for the Gu clan? Like, what happened to your goals and your morals and the whole reason you were doing this in the first place? And to be honest with you, I don't actually think he gives a toss about the Gu family or their revenge, because he was adopted into the family anyways. And yeah, he was pushed into it by Gao Shan because Gao Shan adopted him. But like, truth of the matter is, the only thing he ever really cared about was Zhao Feng. And if he wasn't such a coward, the day he was supposed to run away with Zhao Feng, he should have gone. I remember he asked her, Zhao Feng was like, they're trying to marry me into this kingdom, I don't want to get married. And he was like, okay, then run away with me. And then he decided to not go. Like, what? And then instead, he purposefully led her to Gujiawu, which is Cheng Yin's like fake name, and had the nerve to insinuate that she should marry him. So, you know, he's just an idiot. And he was selfish to the very end. The wedding was one of the coolest I have ever seen. Zhao Feng coming out of the petal was absolutely breathtaking, but I personally thought that first wedding was way more heartwarming. And yeah, I really loved this scene, and I feel like I don't really get to see grand weddings like this in dramas and stuff, so this was lovely to watch. I actually did ship the Emperor and Mingye, but we all know how that ended up. Like, if I could go back in time, I was like, no, don't do that. But yeah, the Emperor's another complex character who contains multitudes, and he really does remind me a lot of Cheng Yin. At no point did I ever hate him, but I did feel that he didn't always make the right choices, you know? But there were times where it's like, what else can he do? I really like the shot as well, with all the ministers in the court. You know what, yeah, when I first started watching C-dramas and I first saw these court scenes with all the ministers inside the hall and the empress sitting up at the top, I used to find them boring. Like the first time was in The Double and the scene first came up and I literally just clicked out of the show because I was like, what is this? Like this is, I don't know what this is. I want to watch a bunch of old men talk. But I have such an appreciation for these scenes and the context that they give to shows and dramas, because what I like is that they exist outside of the Zhao Feng love triangle, but behind all of that there's so much political stuff going on. These ministers are the ones that are running the country. The actions they make have a direct effect on what happens to the main characters. So I'd say next time you're watching a drama and a minister scene comes up, pay attention, because the things they say matter a lot in the long run. I think what I loved the most about this show was that I thought it would be your basic boy meets girl romance, but it was more lovers to enemies, to frenemies, to enemies again. And I've never watched or even read such a turbulent cycle of emotions in a relationship before. It wasn't a romance, and I loved that. I also loved how Zhao Feng stuck to her morals and how she felt about what happened to her. Like a lot of people wanted her to change her mind, but she was determined to not forgive Cheng Yen. Everyone wanted her to forget and just forgive the crown prince, and she should swallow it and be quiet and be meek and serve the country. Who cares that his people let her father go mad and killed her mother? Who cares that her husband killed her grandfather in cold blood and dominated the Danchi people? Zhao Feng cared. That was her lineage. Those were her people. And they begged and demanded her to forgive them, and she said no every single time. In fact, she chose to forget rather than forgive. I have so much respect for her. And you know, at first she may come across as naive and silly and light-hearted, but Zhao Feng had so much light and love within her, and the people around her were drawn to that, and they exploited her for it. They lied to her again and again, and when they had the chance to speak the truth, they still lied. My darling Zhao Feng, they don't deserve you. Overall, this is one of the most special C-dramas I've ever watched. I don't think I will ever watch anything like it again, like I mentioned at the very beginning. We just don't make shows like this anymore, you know? I would really love for them to make C-dramas like this again, where it's, you know, people are morally grey. It's not clear-cut. It's not like it's just a sweet, saccharine romance, but it's about people. It's about choices. It's about betrayal, you know? I don't know if I could watch it again. It was very emotionally taxing, but I'm so glad that I did check it out. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want more C-drama videos, I'm happy to do some, because I've also written other essays about this. And yeah, I hope you're having a lovely day.